What did you say, madam? Never mind what I said, child. But yes, it is possible, very possible. Then I have no reason to believe what you have just told me. Pregnancy takes most girls by surprise because, in most cases, they have not planned for it. They are not ready to handle the strain of pregnancy or the criticism of the society. They are no longer regarded as children, and yet they are not adults and cannot fit in the society. That is why many of them abandon their children or are forced to marry against their will. If they are in school, they dropped out of school and no hope for the future. And Joanitta was just trying to figure out what was going to happen to her when the headmistress interrupted her train of thought. If I had a way, I would avoid taking you home to your parents, but these school regulations say that every girl who gets pregnant must be taken back to her parents. So I will have to do just that. Immediately, the matron packs your things and brings them here, she said gently, squeezing Joanitta's shoulder. Do you love the father of the baby you are carrying? I don't love anyone else more than him, Joanitta answered without hesitation. It makes the situation better, Joanitta, for then you will face with love and not with bitterness and hate. Before taking her home, the headmistress told Joanitta that many girls who get pregnant while at school think of abortion at one time or another. What is abortion? Joanitta had asked. The removal of the child from the mother's womb before the baby can lead a life of its own. The headmistress explained before continuing to explain why Joanitta should not think of an abortion. She explained that in this country, abortion is illegal and that because of this, the methods commonly used to carry out abortions are crude, unhygienic, and hurried. This is dangerous to both the baby and the mother and could easily result into death. She went on to tell her that when the baby is removed by sharp instruments, a lot of bleeding occurs as a result of injury to the mouth of the womb or the uterus itself. And when a baby is removed, pieces of the placenta can easily remain in the uterus and will bleed endlessly. The girl can bleed to death, especially if she does not seek medical attention. Then she explained how, because of the unhygienic conditions under which abortions are carried out in this country, there is a high risk of infection. That this infection may spread to the tubes and ovaries, and if the tubes and the uterus are not treated, scar tissue may form in the tubes. And in some cases, the tubes and uterus must be removed, resulting in the girls being unable to have a baby in the future. All sorts of thoughts went through Joanitta's mind in quick succession as the headmistress drove her the scores of miles to her home. Joanitta had always admired this caring and loving headmistress, but today her admiration for her increased as she carefully negotiated the dangerous bends on the winding, mountainous road. The headmistress and matron had promised to keep it to themselves about the reason she suddenly had to leave school. Joanitta was to have her child and then come back to continue with schooling. She was such a promising student that they could not afford to see her future go up in the ruins. And not once had they uttered any angry words. They had acted with deep concern and understanding. It was as if, in a way, they had considered themselves partly responsible for what had happened to her. But her admiration for this great lady was marred by thoughts of how her parents would receive the news. She was not as worried about her mother as she was about her father, for she could not put anything beyond him. He was a loving and caring father, but he was overprotective of his children. And he had a fiery temper, which sometimes made her think that children would be better off if they had a choice in their parents. She knew that her mother also had moments of wishing that if her parents had not given her away, she would not have had him for a husband, and her fears came to pass. When a young girl gets pregnant, people in the community react in a different way, and in the majority of cases, these reactions are not friendly and are usually not helpful. Every parent feels hurt and betrayed, and when their daughter gets pregnant outside marriage, their ability as good parents is questioned by society. Many focus on the shame it brings to them as parents and their wasted resources in sending the girl to school. They feel let down and look at the girl as the guilty person and themselves as the wronged ones. The girl is not even given a chance to explain what happened, and in the end, she's isolated from her parents. And the Joanitta's case was not much different. Soon after the mistress had driven off, Joanitta's father, having promised her that they would be sympathetic with her, clearly demonstrated his meaning of what being sympathetic was. He dashed to the bedroom and grabbed his hunting spear. And on his way from the bedroom, he stormed to the kitchen and grabbed Joanitta's mother with his free hand and dragged her to the sitting room. He roughly called her out, "Joanitta, come to the sitting room immediately." When Joanitta delayed, he shouted, "Come out of that room. I will be forced to come and bring you out myself." "Joanitta, please hurry. I don't want to provoke your father to use his fists on both of us," her mother pleaded. "Shut up, woman. It is all your fault that she has gone and got herself pregnant," he roared. "Baba, you very well know that I do not tell my girls to become pregnant," she said in defense. "Yes, but you should have taught her how not to get pregnant," he said heatedly. "Anyway, I should have known when I married you that such things would happen. After all, didn't 5 of your 7 sisters get pregnant before marriage?" "Joanitta, come out of there before your father's eyes get red." Joanitta finally dragged herself out of the refuge of her bedroom to face her father's wrath. He grabbed her and threw her onto the ground, face upwards, and placed the sharp end of the spear shaft on her belly. "If you don't want me to use this spear to rip your stomach open and remove this unwanted bastard, name the man responsible so that I can demonstrate the effective use of my spear on him." But threatened as he did, Joanitta dared not tell them who was responsible for her pregnancy. She loved him so much that she did not want to involve him in this family warfare. That night, before her father went to drink, he warned both mother and daughter that they would have to tell him the unwanted father of his unwanted grandchild. If they were not prepared to do it on their own, he was going to beat it out of them. So, the moment he left home in the evening, Joanitta's mother smuggled her out of the village to one of her distant cousins' home, with a plea that she should look after her until time came. She was convinced that when the baby arrived, it would soften her husband's heart. 6 months that followed were a nightmare in Joanitta's life. To pay for the inconvenience she had brought to her aunt, she had to labor on the farm and undertake all the household chores. There was nothing for nothing, and she knew well enough not to complain. Every day, before the crack of dawn, she would get up before every person in the home. She would transfer the goats from the pen and tether them under the big mango tree. She would remove the goats' droppings and keep them for use later. She would then go to the well and fetch water. She would light the fire and put on the water for breakfast. As she waited for the water to boil, she would be grinding the millet for making porridge. As soon as the breakfast was ready, she would then wash plates and saucepans used the previous night. She would go to the garden and work till noon, when she would go home in time to prepare lunch for the family. She would then release the goats to go for grazing. Lunch ready, she would go back to the gardens and work till dusk, and she would drag herself home, no one seeming to care about her condition. She'd go to the well for water, wash the plates and saucepans used at lunch, and prepare supper. Once supper was on fire, she would tether the goats in the goat pen and bathe the children. She would then serve supper and go to sleep. This was her routine from Monday to Friday. On Saturday, she'd wake up at the crack of dawn and take the saucepans and dirty clothes to the well for general cleaning. She'd scrub the saucepans with the river sand till she could see her reflection in them. She would then carry the saucepan packed in a basket on top of the clothes in a big basin on her head and a jerry can of water in her hands. After preparing and serving breakfast, she would go back to the river and collect clay soil. This she would mix with the goat's droppings she had collected over the week and mix them into a paste. She would use this paste for smearing the kitchen and the latrine floors. She would then prepare and serve lunch. After lunch, she would mend the latrine covers if it was necessary and collect soft leaves for use after long calls. She would also make sure that the stand for holding these leaves was in good order. This done, she would collect dry banana leaves and smoke the pit latrine. She would then collect millet from the granary and put it in the winnowing tray. She would thresh it, winnow out the chaff, and using dry banana leaves, she would roast it. After that, she would pound the millet, then winnow it thoroughly, removing stones and other impurities. The sorting done, she would pound dried cassava and mix it with the millet. She would then go to the well and fetch water, wash plates and saucepans used at lunch, and prepare supper. It was like this weeks after week until her time came. And when the arrival time for the baby came, Joanitta was ill prepared for it as she had been for its conception and her pregnancy announcement. This made her have a very difficult delivery in which she nearly lost her life.